My name's Alex, and I make electronic music underneath the name I'm Your Destruction, or IAYD for short. And I use the Nintendo Game Boy and occasionally the Nintendo Entertainment System to write music. I had always wanted to write music growing up, and I never had the tools. I didn't get an electric guitar like everyone. All my other friends were getting electric guitars and basses and starting bands, and that, being in a band never really appealed to me very much. Right after I turned 14, like midway through my freshman year of high school, I found this program written for Windows that lets you write music for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and I was like, oh my god, this is really cool, so I'm going to start doing this. I made a music MySpace, and I needed some kind of alias, and I'm Your Destruction, or IOID, was sort of an inside joke between me and a few friends that I don't even remember what it is now, but I was like, that would be really cool for just a band or for like a musician's name, and I took that and I used that as my alias. And I picked up the Game Boy in what was August of 2007, I think. Yeah, August of 2007, and I had mowed lawns for the entire summer trying to save up my money to buy equipment and buy a mixer and buy all of this cool stuff. And I started writing Game Boy music, and I remember the first time when I finished a song called a Galaxy Smasher, and that was on my EP that came out later that year, but I wrote it in like April of 2008, and I put it up online, and then boom, just all these people just started downloading it and saying, oh my god, where did this come from? And it was just kind of right there when I was like, oh wow, I guess people are kind of, paying attention to what I'm doing. The playing live aspect is something that I never quite thought about. I was really inspired by what I was watching on YouTube, and there were these videos of them just playing at huge festivals, and I was just like, there's people out there that are going to these things and listening to Game Boy music and just going ballistic, and they're playing on stage and they look like they're having a blast, and being a 14-year-old kid and seeing this stuff is just mind-blowing, and thinking like, wow, someday I would really like to do something like that. But I even knew what kind of scene was in Corpus, and I knew what shows these, all the kids at my school were going to, and I knew exactly what these kids were interested in, and I knew that there would have been no chance at trying to book shows here in Corpus. My first Corpus show was at the House of Rock, and I don't really deal with them anymore, but I finally sent out some emails, and I sent out more emails, and they were just like, okay, you know what, like, we have this thing you can open, but we don't really understand like what you're about or what you're doing. And I showed up to the venue, and they told me to be there by 7:00, and I showed up there like 7:15, and there was no one there. And I sat around at the venue until about 8:30, when a sound man comes up to me and it's just like, oh, like, are you a DJ? And I really didn't know how to respond to that. I was like, no, I'm not a DJ. No, I'm not about DJing music. But it was really cool about it. I was like, no, like, I'm here and I'm supposed to open. Like, can we get this together? And he's like, oh, we're just waiting for some musicians, no problem. And I got up there, and I only got to play for about 25 minutes, and it was just pretty terrible. And maybe like 3 of my friends showed up because it was like on a Wednesday night. So I right after that point of that Corpus show, I released my EP in August of 2008, and on this small net label run by my friend Nigel from Chicago, and boom, everybody just started downloading it. All these people who were really paying attention to my music online. There's this festival called the Blip Festival, and it's this annual international chip music festival based in New York City. Like, I get a phone call from my friend Logan, and Logan Erickson from St. Louis, and he's like, yo, you need to check your inbox. And I was like, why, what are you talking about? And I go to my Gmail, and I open my inbox, and there's an invitation to play Blip Festival 2008. And I was only 16 years old at the time. I was like, there's no way. I can't believe they want me to come out and do this. Like, how am I going to get to New York? Like, what am I going to do? And I ended up going out to New York, and I met all these people that I had been talking online with. And it was probably one of the best experiences of my life. Like, right after Blip Festival was the first Data Pop showcase in Austin, and I had never been to Austin before, and, playing South by Southwest and just being a part of something so much bigger than what I had expected. And then finally, which was the complete turning point for me in my music, was the advent of Studio B in May of 2009. As I started to play more and more shows, I realized like what would be a show that I would want to see, and that's exactly what I try to do when I play live. I try to put on a show that I would want to watch, and that I want musicians to be in my face. I want like people pushing and just like that whole energy of everyone just being like together in one room with one purpose, and that's just there to have fun and enjoy some music. And that's exactly what I try to do whenever I play live. I've had this mixer since I was like 14, 15 years old, and then I got this as a gift right before I played Blip Festival from some friends of mine from the Midwest. I write music with this cartridge and many of the cartridges you see here, with a program called Little Sound DJ, which is a homebrew music making software specifically written for the Nintendo Game Boy that essentially turns your Game Boy into a synthesizer. And just turn that on as an aesthetic choice to have, plain Jane 1989 Game Boys, because unbelievably they have the best sound, they have the biggest bass, as opposed to the Game Boy Color, which I have in another room, which has a very tinny sound, and has a lot of hiss, has a very high-pitched whine to it. This is a circuit bent 80s telephone handset turned into a microphone, and I got the idea from all these noise rock bands and all these noise bands and musicians that I had been listening to at the time I really preferred that raw lo-fi sound, and went and I got this, and I knew that I wasn't going to want to use a normal microphone when I played live, and this would have been the preferred method of getting my vocals out and talking to the crowd. Plus, it sounds really awesome, and I really like the sound. Everything is written on the Nintendo Game Boy. I don't do any other writing on the computer. I mean, I'll dabble on a keyboard or something to try and get a melody out or whatever, but everything is written on the Game Boy. Every note, every kick, see, there's a lead, we have a lead. Every note, every kick, every snare, hi-hat, whatever, anything that's part of the song is written on the Game Boy, and I use one Game Boy exclusively. I'm just going to show you guys a quick demo of a song I wrote after I had a really terrible show back on Halloween of this year, and it's called City of Mediocrity.